Leroy Chiao, one of the nation's most accomplished astronauts, PhD, entrepreneur, educator, and speaker. Dare to dream, strive to achieve. Born in the U.S. to immigrant Chinese parents, Chiao grew up in a dual-culture home. His language ability, knowledge, experience, and insights would prove to be invaluable. In 1969, an 8-year-old boy watched the first Apollo moon landing and dreamed of becoming an astronaut. He strived, persevered, reached, and went past all foreseeable possibilities, receiving a plethora of awards and accreditations. Astronaut Leroy Chiao. Be true to yourself and follow your dreams.
I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't think I was going to be part of all this, and so it just shows you how interesting life can be.
My next guest is an American astronaut who has made 4 trips to outer space. His latest was a 6.5-month stay on the International Space Station. That's nothing to do with the International House of Pancakes. Please welcome Leroy Chiao, everybody.
I was 8 years old when the first Apollo moon landing happened, and I still remember very vividly watching that. And then even before that, I was following the earlier flights of Gemini, and but it was really the Apollo moon landing that solidified in my mind as an 8-year-old that this is something I'd like to do.
You know, space is something that I've been dreaming about since I was an 8-year-old kid watching the first Apollo moon landing. So being selected to be an astronaut and then finally getting a chance to actually fly was the realization of a boyhood dream. So the very first time strapping into the space shuttle, people often ask you, well, is this something you were scared of? Were you nervous? And the answer, across all of us was no, because this is something that you've been dreaming about, you've been working hard, and the only thing we're afraid of is that we're going to not get a chance to go. So once the solid rocket booster's light, I'll tell you what, it's really a feeling of relief. I'm very excited about the private sector. I was at NASA for 15 years. I flew 4 missions, flew on shuttles, flew on the Russian Soyuz, commanded the space station, and one of the reasons I left NASA is because I'm so excited about the possibilities of private space exploration in the next 5 to 10 years. To me, this is exactly paralleling the development of the airplane. In the beginning, it was for the few, it was risky, people died, but I mean, who could have foreseen back then what would have come out of those, the birth of the airplane?
Build a team to launch into orbit and beyond. Spaceflight is a demanding endeavor that requires the ultimate in teamwork. Selected by NASA in January 1990, Dr. Chiao became an astronaut in July 1991. He received flight assignments as a space station commander, space station science officer, and as a space shuttle mission specialist. Applied the lessons learned in practices of the space program. Learn firsthand lessons of team building from a space station mission commander.
Starting from the days way back when the first primitive people decided to go over the hill and to see what was on the other side, to the voyages of Columbus and our first forays into aviation and space flight, people are just curious, and we need to go see what's on the other side of that mountain.
So what happens, like, when you're coming back down then? I don't like the turbulence in airplanes. I don't like that. Is that, you got a lot of that coming in? Does it all kind of battle and shake?
Surprisingly not. You would think so. We're coming down from 17,500 miles an hour orbital velocity.
17,500 miles an hour?
Right. And you hit the atmosphere and you just start slowing down. And that's what causes all the friction, causes all the heat. And in the Soyuz especially, I'm right next to the hull. I was in the right seat on the way down. And porthole here, you can see the fire going by, bits of the heat shield going by. And it's very smooth. It's a nice, smooth entry into the atmosphere.
Smooth or not, when I see, bits of stuff going by, flames, that's not smooth in my book, sparkly.
Success in multicultural space. In this shrinking world and universe, opportunities abound for professionals who understand the importance and advantages of multicultural teams. Experience the unique lessons learned from preparing for and flying international space missions, from the perspective of a first astronaut of Chinese heritage to perform a spacewalk and to command a space crew. Chiao has worked flawlessly with Russian, Japanese, European, Canadian, and American astronauts and specialists.
Well, after the landing of Discovery in late 2000, I was kind of at a crossroads in my career. I had flown 3 space shuttle missions. I'd been at NASA for 10 years. I'd done 4 spacewalks and was feeling pretty good. But, it was kind of I've done most of what I could do on a space shuttle. And so at that point, I kind of had a decision to make, and the chief astronaut invited me to join what's called the Expedition Corps. What that meant, it was kind of a change in path. He was asking me to be the commander of the space station to train and fly on a long duration flight, which turned out to be a 6.5-month mission. It was a lot bigger deal than that, though. Just thinking about spending 6.5 months in a series of tin cans, you know, and can you really do that? I mean, you've got to be in the right frame of mind to decide that you want to do that. But it was even an even bigger commitment training-wise. I was going to be training at least 3.5 years. I was going to be shuttling back and forth between Moscow, or Star City, which is just outside of Moscow, and Houston, literally spending 1 month there, 1 month here, back and forth for many years. Gosh, I had to learn the Russian language. In fact, I had to learn it fluently because I became the co-pilot of the Soyuz. I launched on a Soyuz rocket, a Russian Soyuz. And so I had to do the training in Russian, work with the Russian mission control, work through emergency scenarios all in Russian. So this was a pretty huge commitment. And by the way, I was a federal employee working for NASA, so all this back and forth, all in economy class.
Leadership perspective of an expedition commander. Effective leadership can mean the difference between life and death, success and failure. During his 15-year career as a NASA astronaut, Dr. Chiao, a veteran of 4 space missions, learned from the experiences of the commander of Expedition 10, a 193-day mission aboard the International Space Station. Chiao has logged over 229 days in space, over 36 hours of which were spent in extravehicular activity, EVA or spacewalks.
First thing we did was check everything out, including our pressure suits. Each pressure suit, by the way, is custom made for the individual. And so this gives you an idea. Here I am going through the pressure check. This is a launch couch. This is what it's like being in that Soyuz. You're up there with your knees up in your chest, and you're in this position for about 5.5 hours. Yeah, you strap into launch. It only takes about 8.5, 9 minutes to get into space, but you strap in about 2.5 hours before launch, and once you get into space, it takes 2 orbits to check all the systems to make sure you don't have to do an emergency return, and only then do you get to go to unstrap and straighten out your legs and get out of your suits.
Yes, we launched the first element in 1997, so it has been there a while, and it's been a learning process because we have had a few problems. We've had to do repairs, but this is how we're learning.
Scare you up there? Did you get scared by
no,
you run out of oxygen or anything?
No, we have come close on some supplies, but we've always been resupplied okay, and this is how we're learning how to go to Mars. We've got to learn how to build better spacecraft, more robust spacecraft, and we've just got to get smarter on long-duration spaceflight so we can go back to the moon and on to Mars.
View from the on high. Adventures of a professional astronaut. Experience spaceflight from the on-high perch of the International Space Station. Get the behind-the-scenes tour from the commander of Expedition 10. Stunning photographs and personal stories make this an unforgettable experience.
Well, this is the Russian service module. This is kind of the heart of the station. Over here are the 3 windows that we shot from.
Not large.
No, very small portholes, 1, 2, 3.
The station mock-up shows he didn't have much room to maneuver. But as the Earth raced by at 17,500 miles an hour, he wedged himself and shot.
As you can see, this lens almost fills the window, and so you've got to kind of brace yourself, maybe use, some toes to hold onto a handrail, and maybe a hand to steady yourself, but then get ready for your shot. And as the world goes by, you try to pan that target while you're shooting.
He produced images of stunning beauty.
These are the Tokan Lakes in Egypt, and this water here is, of course, normally blue. This isn't ice or anything. This is, again, using sun glints reflecting off the water into the lens. It makes it look like it's quicksilver or just liquid metal of some kind. So this kind of a photo, it doesn't even look real.
Education outreach is also a big part of what we do. We had some organized teleconferences, but those are logistically kind of cumbersome, so we aren't able to do that many. We found the ham radio. I don't know if any of you guys are ham radio enthusiasts, but ham radio turned out to be a great way to reach a lot of kids. We set a record on my flight, 26 contacts, pretty much 1 a week. And we were able to reach kids all over the world, most of the contacts in the U.S., but we did have a few in Europe, a few in Japan, and even 1 in Russia. So it was really neat. The kids get about 10 minutes of talk time as you travel line of sight from horizon to horizon to the ground station, and it was just really, you could hear the excitement in their voices. Very important part of what we do. Do I want to go into space again? Well, I've spent 15 years at NASA, and I've flown 4 space missions, and I've spent about, 229 days in space, so that's a long time. I think I'm done flying in space for now. I'm going to reserve the right to go back, though, because there are a number of private companies now trying to get into space. And I've been doing a little bit of work with some of those folks, so it's not out of the question that I could go back someday.